Hey everybody, welcome to Rise of the GM. This is a little bit different kind of style than what we've been doing. Normally we are, live on YouTube, and pretty quickly after that, our podcast drops on Spotify and on Apple Music, and you can go back and listen to our shows then. While Matthew is on sabbatical, we have a few things going on where every other week, I'm going to be doing a short thing like this. This is probably going to be about 10 minutes long. Just talking about some things maybe I've learned in the GMing kind of realm, and I'm trying to work through myself as a person who's trying to get better at their craft. But also, on the off weeks, we have pre-recorded episodes that are going on. Sorry, I lost the word there for a second. And I just wanted to let you all kind of know the schedule before we jump into that. So for this kind of thing, these GM lessons, things that I've learned and just want to kind of speak into. Today, obviously, I'm here live. Hello. Thank you all for watching if you're on. We also will have on the 28th of March, the 11th of April, and then the 25th of April will be this kind of thing. So you can kind of keep track of that and look at that situation. The other things are the pre-recorded episodes will be dropping. One will be dropping next week, next Thursday at our normal time on the 21st, and we're talking about how to integrate lore into the campaign. On the 4th of April, we're going to look at how to deal with PC backstories and how to get those involved more in the campaign story and tell the story that way also. And then on the 18th of April, we're going to be talking about character death again, kind of doing a little bit of a reprise of that. We talked about that within some questions and about resurrection and death and things, but Matthew and I had a really good conversation about that, and I'm excited for those, all three of those to drop. And then coming back in May 5th, I believe, we'll be back live and back into our normal schedule. So we're excited to do that and to share those, but also to get back to that after Matthew's had his time on sabbatical. What I was wanting to do, when talking about this, these kind of things, is just maybe being a little more transparent about some specific things. We try to do that, as just talking about our experience in GMing and running games, and the things that we've learned, and maybe the things that we've feel like we failed at, and that kind of thing. That's part of Rise of the GM, and just learning those lessons. But I wanted to get into some more specific kind of pieces of that when I'm doing these GM lessons. And again, that's not a lesson I'm teaching; it's a lesson that I'm learning in that, and hopefully that can be helpful to any of you ascending GMs out there, whether you're just kicking off, or maybe you've GM'd for years and years and years and just trying to, sharpen up a little bit. So recently, last week, actually, we finished an arc. And as we're going into Matthew's sabbatical, we were trying to end the Jade Masks game at a point where there could be some resolve and we could take a couple months off and then jump back in. And so I was looking towards, as the GM, to kind of completing an arc. Matthew's character, Eliakim, had been for some time, and the rest of the party with him, chasing down a brother who had been kidnapped and enslaved. And that has led them to actually Josh's character, Leonis's home city that's in the Underdark. It's a drow city. And they've went there to, one, get back Eliakim's brother, but two, there was a siege happening on the city from kind of the villain and his armies that have been coming in and trying to take over things. So there were a couple things that I wanted to make sure happened. One was that I really, really, really wanted it to get to the point where Eliakim would get his brother back, and that could be a piece of this. I also wanted there to be a good momentum as far as assuming that they were successful, that the party would actually be able to break the siege in some way by doing something pretty epic and stopping a big problem that was coming, which was this necromancer and his followers were attempting to raise the bones of a giant titan that was underground and use it to pretty massive effect in the war. So I wanted them to be able to have a chance to stop that. to either know that they stopped it or that thing was up and moving, and that they were going to have to deal with it. And then the third thing was to give some foreshadowing, and that was to look ahead and give a tip, a clue from this matron drow that is the mother of our character Leonis. That there's an item out there that could be forged that could help them in this war. So all three of those things were like major things that I wanted to happen. I had some side things for the rest of the group that I wanted to connect in as they were in this city. But I knew I wanted to hit those three things. So fast forward to last week's session, we got into it. I knew there would be quite a bit of social scenes going on. Leonis is coming to his home city for the first time in decades. And there were people that were not happy about that. There were people that were happy about that. And there needed to be some conversations that took place, as well as this like kind of negotiation to get the brother back. And so that happened, and it was moving pretty well with our timing. But then we got into the place where they were sent off, and it was, if you kind of take care of this problem with the siege, then we'll be able to work in this way. And so they went to that, and it became this encounter where they were fighting several necromancers, a lot of undead. The Titan's bones were beginning to raise, and they were needing to stop that before the ritual was to defeat all these people before the ritual was complete and destroy the things that were kind of raising this thing. And I was watching the clock, as we all have finite time. There's only so much time we can sit at the table. And I'm watching the clock and thinking, man, we're pushing it. We're kind of getting to the point where we normally stop. And I want to make sure that things happen. So when they completed the victory, we were over time already, which is never a great place to be. And I rushed it. I rushed the end, and I very quickly pushed them through kind of the end of that, as well as, okay, and you get back and they release the brother, and there was a very short scene that I didn't give enough justice to. So I walked away from that unhappy. I was glad that we got to a certain point, but also realizing that we have rushed this, and that wasn't what I wanted for the end of that. And I don't know, I haven't got to debrief it, but I wasn't super sure that like the players felt good about the end of that also. But as I was kind of walking away, and I've been thinking about that over the week, some things I, have thought about was like an encouragement to you all, I guess. And the thing that I'm like wanting to hold on to is this idea of like not rushing to get to this point. I felt like I had a timeline, and I think that I could have, rather than done that, maybe left the battle at a cliffhanger and said, this thing is like rumbling, the bones are starting to, the sinews are coming back together as this thing begins to try and stand, and the next time that we meet, we're going to find out what happens. Like that may have been a good way to finish that, or allowing for the social scenes to happen and not even go into the encounter and save that like kind of dramatics for the next time, even though that's 8 weeks later. Those are some things that I was kind of like, as I'm processing it, wondering if it would have went better. And I would love to know, comments on this in the future. Like, have you been in this situation? What's it look like when you're kind of feeling crunched for time? Those kind of things. But that's the thing that I look at, and I wish that I had done better in the moment. The biggest part being, I feel like the battle went well. I never like to like push people through, especially our game is very open as far as like, there's no timeline in when this campaign will be over. We're all friends. We're planning on hanging out for as long as we can. And, I could, hopefully we'll play this out, until it's fruition without like a time crunch. So I have the blessing of that, and was really hoping that I could get to that place. But I wish that I had not pushed them out of like, okay, battle's over, you find a few things, now move on kind of thing. I didn't quite like that I had done that as a GM. But the other thing I think was the biggest piece, was that the meeting of Eliakim and getting his brother back was rushed. And that's the thing I'm like the saddest about in that whole thing, is that was a point of the game where like a lot of stuff, especially for Eliakim, had been leading up to this. It's been weeks and weeks and months of that being a thing in the back of that character's brain, or being the driving force of what he's doing. And for me to rush that in like a matter of a couple minutes, I don't really like. I'm sad that happened. So where do I go? Where do I go forward in that? I think is the question. That's the thing I've been mulling over in the last week. And there's some things that I think that like I've kind of come to as far as like principles are concerned. One of them is I do need to give myself some grace in the situation, of like not being like, oh, like I totally bumbled this and like I'm never going to be able to recover. I don't think that's true. One, my table, my friends, my players, they would not hold that over me, I don't think. They're giving me grace in that as well, and I'm thankful for that. But I need to do that for myself too. It's like, okay, I own the fact that I think I rushed this stuff, and I want to move forward in a better manner when we come back together and kind of fix some of these things. So giving myself grace. So, and if you're ever in that situation where you're like, man, I don't like the way things went, like, it's okay. People are having fun. You're doing an awesome job. And like, let's move forward with the story and with our fun time together with our friends. I do, though, in spite of that, or in light of that, I guess, one of the things I've decided is that we are going to roll back the tape a little bit when we come in. And I've already like shared this with the group that, I'm like, I didn't like exactly how that ended. So the moment where Eliakim got his brother back, we're actually going to re-roll back. And we're going to allow that scene to actually happen in a better way. It should have been one of like emotion, and really what happened was the brother was super flat with that. So we're going to pull that camera back a little bit. We're going to rewind the tape about 5 minutes to them coming in and saying, we've done this thing, now we want him back. And I want to allow that to actually be like a character building moment, not just a, hey, it's the end of the night, we need to get done kind of situation. So that's the thing, you may be able to do, obviously, if you've played a bunch of sessions since the point where you're like, man, I wish I would have done that differently. You can't quite roll back the tape so much. Maybe you could do what you could do, to kind of think on my feet here, is you could do a flashback. Flashback scenes are like super helpful. I love dreams, I love visions, and I love flashbacks, and allowing like there to be even like story told in a social setting told as a flashback can be a really cool thing, if you can kind of prep your players for that. So that's a way to do that. But for me, because it's like the next thing we're doing, I'm able to roll the tape back and just say, hey, let's go back 5 minutes. You're entering the door and scene, kind of thing. So that's one of the things I'm wanting to do. Give myself grace. I'm wanting to redo a little bit of the story there. And like, I think a principle that I'm taking away most of all in this is I had a lot of prep work done, which is great, because I appreciate that in myself more than coming in with like nothing and just having to go off the seat of my pants or just run off directly off of motivations. There were a lot of things I didn't get done, and I was pretty like hard on myself at first, one, for rushing the thing at the end, but two, I'm like, I have all these notes of things that I wanted to do with other players and other characters, and like let them like be involved in this. But I think the thing that I would recommend, if you're moving into, maybe you have some like time crunch on things or whatever that situation is that you would like plan well and plan for a lot, but also in those moments, and maybe this is a good like thing for every session, I don't know, but it's like to hold those plans loosely. We know, we've talked about it a lot on Rise of the GM here, and from your experience that like things will go sideways, or they'll take the option that was not put before them, or we need to improv sometimes, in this place that we didn't have planned, but they want to go to, the librarian that everybody always wants to talk to. It's like, okay, I have a librarian here. We know those things. We know that there's like holding loosely, but also kind of in those moments of like, okay, it's not gone just because we didn't hit it. There could be other opportunities for this information or these interactions to happen. So I just wanted to encourage you in that, like kind of tell my story a little bit about like, these are some things that was kind of sad about walking away from last week's session, and things that I felt like I didn't do so well. But also there's ways to move forward in, giving yourself grace and knowing like you are doing a great job. People are having fun and it's a good time. Two, there are these opportunities to redo things, whether that's rolling back the tape for something that just happened, or maybe going back and doing a flashback to like fill out that story. I think are good options. And then just holding your plan loosely and knowing that, hey, we can get to this next time. So hopefully that's helpful. I got to be honest, I was wondering if I would see chat or things like that happening, and I have not. So hopefully this is recorded right, that I am actually live. It says live. But I do just want to thank you all. And I know Matthew's very thankful too, just for the interactions, and we love being able to engage with you all about gaming. We've enjoyed it a ton, and we're looking forward to jumping into like future discussions too. So just to let you know, we still are taking questions for the Haversack. Our goal is actually when we come back live on that May 5th time to actually jump in and just do like a Haversack hoopla kind of thing where we just answer a bunch of questions besides doing like our NPC and our encounter before we get into more topics. So as the weeks go on through this, I'll keep like sharing like what the next topics are going to look like, but we have a ton lined up and some really cool guest opportunities too. So thank you all again. Hope you have an awesome day, and enjoy your gaming this week.